Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we are going to absolutely destroy this Ryida'S Shinryu fight. So this is the Shinryu fight that dropped with Ryida'S banner. And we absolutely destroy this thing. Now I could see this fight definitely giving people trouble. Like, if you don't bring evasion or you don't bring tanks, like this could be a brutal fight. Because these enemies are very aggressive. And they basically can Brave Gain from 0 to like kill you attack. So if you don't dodge or mitigate, like they're going to kill you. But so I'm going to make this fight look really easy because I'm doing what the game wants. I'm bringing like a full dodge comp pretty much, right? So we're running Ryida and we're going to feature Ryida'S FR here. And I think Edge is just a really, really nice complement because the nature of Ryida'S LD, she can't really have full upkeep time on dodging if you're doing a very aggressive fight like this, right? Because basically the way her LD works, her buff that lets you dodge, it's basically you just have 3 charges on it. So each character can dodge 3 times, but the enemies that are super aggressive, they're going to burn through those quick, and then all of a sudden you're not dodging, right? So to really maximize Ryida'S FR, in a situation like this, with very aggressive enemies that are going to jump turns, or going to steal turns, you really want someone like Edge there, who's going to have party-wide evasion on a buff that isn't going to expire per swing. Basically, right? So as long as Edge's buff is up from his EX, your party's got party-wide evasion anyways. So basically, the combination of Ryida and Edge here, we pretty much upkeep 100% party evasion the whole time. And then Minwu is here just as a nasty character to provide double traps and have some healing as well, right? So this might be the best Ryida team comp. I mean, there's lots of comps that can work, but I just like the way that this one gels, especially with this fight, right? Now, depending on the style of fight, your team comps can definitely change. But I just can't turn down, because like in Minwu's spot, I just like, what is the best like off turn I can run here? And I can't ignore double traps, right? And they're quite powerful. And the reason why I like Edge for my evade tank, one is he's giving the party-wide evade, which is really good. The other thing with Edge that's cool is he has lock, right? So even when Ryida'S dodge is maybe the only dodge I have up, Edge gives himself dodge. And so what's going to happen is these enemies do a lot of single target attacks. So they're just going to lock onto Edge, and they're going to do a million attacks on Edge, who he doesn't care if Ryida'S buff falls off because he's got his own dodge passive. So then my other 2 characters, my Minwu and Ryida, they can just hold that Ryida buff for a long time and just save those for basically the all attacks. So I do think this team comp gels so well, and they just complement each other so well, right? Now, the one bad part about Edge and Minwu is they have like Holy and Lightning damage, which it's harder to capitalize on the water damage. But here's the thing, if you're doing a very aggressive fight like this, you're going to build up the gauge just on dodging. Like, you don't need to do water damage to build your gauge up. And what you're going to see in this fight, this fight is literally the fastest I've ever built up the force gauge. It's insane how fast we build it up in this fight. And the nice thing is this isn't a story chapter, so this is a fight I can keep coming back to. This could be a new, like, this might be better than the Ultimisia fight for showcasing, like, defense comp teams. So I might be coming back to this fight more and more, right? It's a very cool fight for showing, like, with just very aggressive enemies, right? I mean, the Ultimisia one is, like, super aggressive, too. Like, that one's still going to be a good fight. But this one's really great, obviously, because they want you to use dodging, so it's great for showing off dodge tanks, especially, right? And so the other reason I like Edge here, so one, he's got the party-wide evade, he has lock, which are both very useful, but then his counters are actually, like, out of all the evade tanks, his might be the most powerful, because he has that stacking one where they build up to that very powerful one. So I don't know. I mean, 8s are pretty powerful too, because I think he does like double counters every time, so like 8 definitely is another good shout here. But the reason why you don't want to run, I don't feel it's optimal to run more than one counter tank, because then they only can both counter on all attacks, right? So with Edge here, because if you're using like Edge or Galoof, like they're going to steal all the single target ones from each other, right? Because Galoof is a cover tank, so he's going to cover a thing at that single target, and Edge is going to lock. So no matter what, like running 2 of those I think is kind of redundant. So I think running an off turn like Minwu in that next slot works much better. I could see something like Core working here, you know, things like that. But you just don't want to run traditional counter characters because they need to actually get hit. And in a team comp like this, you're dodging out, right? So Yeah, this is actually quite silly because we're about to get into this force time. It takes me a little bit to build up because I don't have any force chargers on this team. And you don't need it. It's a very passive team. Like, there's no rush to get into this thing. And my edge is only force enhance 10. I may force enhance 30 him now because I've got like a legit team comp that I want to run him on a lot. So I may decide to force enhance 30 him, but it's not like super necessary because once again, there's no rush to get into force with this team, right? So now we're close enough. I basically wait till I get really close to having my force gauge up to pop Minwu's BT effect. Because Minwu's BT effect, I want to make sure that that is going like the entire force time. Because that's going to enable his double traps, right? He's only got 6 turns of it. So I felt like executing it there was pretty good timing. Because by Ryida'S next turn, we should be able to pop her force and be good, right? So yeah, those big Rip Plus attacks, so they get like double attacks sometimes. Those are the ones I think are going to be really nasty if you are not mitigating or dodging those attacks, right? So I could see like a newer player, like not who doesn't really understand what you're supposed to do in this fight, just walk in with a random team and just get pummeled, right? And you could have like a very good team and just get absolutely pummeled if you're not ready for it, right? So you definitely want to bring some dodge or some mitigation here because that's definitely what the fight's calling for. But I'm pretty sure you could just bring Gladio and like he could mitigate out just fine, right? You could probably very easily do a non-dodge comp here, and you could probably just do like a core FR Gladio type setup and probably be fine in this fight. But yeah, you would want to keep it non-elemental though. So the big thing with these guys is they, I believe they're strong against every element, so they want you to definitely imperil. So they want you to like imperil for, the idea is they want you to use her weak imperil like specialty to get over there being strong against all these elements. Force them into their water weakness, right? And then get that weakness damage. But I think you could just bring non-elemental characters here and you'd be fine also. But yeah, look at Edge. Like, that was already 700k, right? So now we're just, like, off to the races. So, you know, Minwu's double traps, they don't, like, raise the gauge or anything. It's just really nice damage. Now, these dodges, this is where we're getting it, right? So the thing with these enemies is they keep stealing turns. They do a bunch of, like, just single target, letting Edge dodge out. Like, all that craziness, and we get 50% each time, so that's where it gets crazy, right? So Minwu here, I don't think we're going to get much on the gauge here. Let's see what we get on this one. And I'm obviously commentating over what I pre-recorded there, right? So we got 23% there, so I believe Soul Convergence might naturally be non-elemental, so the Water Enchant worked there. But if I would have used one of his Holy Attacks, I don't think he would have had it there, because I did kind of misspeak on one of my Rydia videos. I think it was maybe the pull guide. One of them I mentioned Rydia was a true water enchanter, but I got that mixed up. She's actually a true water imperiler, which is different than an enchanter. I think her water enchant is just a normal water enchant. It's her imperil that is true, where like the enemies can't get around her imperil. So what's going to be silly here is you guys can see with this aggressive fight, like how fast we rack up the gauge. And the thing with this getting 50% each time, like the enemies don't have to be as aggressive as like if you're using like core or something. Because like when you're doing core FR, you only get 5% a tick, but like every counter counts, right? Every off turn counts. So you can get like 15% every time. But these guys are getting, you can only get it once per turn, but it's like, or once per attack, but it's 50%. That is just a huge chunk. And you can see like all this, and look, they're just stealing turns, they're getting interruption attacks. It's like, all right, give us 50%. So like that instance right there, it was technically Edge's turn. Like right here, it's still Edge's turn. And they each took an interruption attack. So on Edge's turn, they just gave us 100% for free before we even took the turn. So with the way this specific fight operates, they make Ryida'S FR look really good. Just keep in mind, Ryida'S FR won't be this busted in every fight. Like, it's got to be a pretty aggressive fight. But once again, at 50% per charge, even non-aggressive fights, you're going to be able to get to a good number with Ryida'S, especially if you try to play slow and passively and not steal turns or anything like that, right? So look, the enemy's got 4 turns in a row coming up. So we're looking at 200% just from these 4 turns, not counting any other interruptions they might do in between, right? So we're already up to 550, and we've only done 3 turns of our force. We still have 7 turns left. And then here comes the, you know, the big counters from Edge. Like, they get beefy, like 2 mil AoE on a counter. And then, yeah, another interruption attack. Give us another 50%. We're up to 600. Like, and it just kind of goes on like this to where I mean, there's really no limit to how crazy this gauge. I'm pretty sure if they would have let me, I probably could have taken this gauge up to like 2,000 plus. But they obviously don't let you go that high. Would be really busted if they did, right? And who knows? I haven't looked. You know, I don't keep up 100% with modern JP. Maybe at some point they do extend that and let that go bigger. But like, I feel like if they're not going to let you go past 999, then basically the FR is, well, which one can get to 999 the quickest, and which one can get you the most turns of 999. And right now, Ryida'S is looking like the quickest if it's an aggressive fight like this, right? Because we're up to, we're over 700%, right? And we've still got 6 turns left of force time. Like, I have never ramped up this quick ever in this game. It's crazy. I think you could even take Hope and just straight up, like, charge the whole time, but, like, then you're not getting attacks. So this is kind of crazy. And who knows? Instead of Minwu, I definitely could have just tossed, like, Enna Crow here, and then she just gets a turn on one of these later ones, and she's just popping, like, 60 mil bombs or whatever. Well, she probably wouldn't do 60 mil in this comp, but, like, still. She could be just popping, like, huge bombs, right? So you could do, like, Enna Crow and Minwu spot would be kind of crazy. But all the off-turn really adds up over time, right? All right, so finally Edge getting another turn. We always press that EX when it comes up because we definitely want to keep up that party-wide invade. And literally this whole fight, we were never in danger once. But we ran a pretty darn optimal team, like what the game wants, right? So the thing is, though, like, your Edge wouldn't even have to be maxed out. Like, you could have maybe just have the EX and, like, just have that Blitz Mirage going. Obviously, you're going to do more damage with the full kit, but, like, yeah, we've already got the enemies down to 30%. We're only halfway through our force time, right? And we're almost to 999 already. Now, Ryida'S going to be able to get a 50% bump here. Because it's her force. Yeah, 53. So she gets a nice bump there. And then there's another miss. Here comes another 50%. So basically, we're going to be sitting at 999 at 5 turns of force, which I've never gotten it that early. Like, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, we're just sitting here pretty much at maxed out force gauge pretty darn early. And, you know, they're at 12%. So, like, we don't even really get to finish this force time. So, the thing is I don't know if they have an aggressive fight like this that has more HP that we could really show this off more. I don't think they do, right? And it's nice having multiple enemies because then that's more enemy turns. For me, like, a lot of the really tanky fights are, like, Spiritus fights, and those are typically, like, single enemy, right? But, yeah. 3 mil AoE just on a counter, right? And then, yeah, these interruption attacks. And here we are. We're at max gauge, and we're still on fifth turn. So now we're just getting 50% bumps that don't do anything. So we're way over max gauge at this point. And now it's just like, all right, we might as well finish them off. They're at 1%. 1%. And, yeah, that's the fight. Pretty easy peasy. 22 turns. I'm like, sure, let's just pop the summon. No point in waiting on the summon. We're at max damage. And so, sure, take your, 6.5 mil nuke there. And there you go. So, Ryida'S, very, very fun character. I mean, if you have the tools to build a team like this and you really like it, she's definitely a fun character to grab. Just remember, anniversary's on the horizon, so don't let your resources get too low. Let me know how you handled this fight. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.